This is San Francisco, California, and the Red Bull Youth America's Cup. 10 international teams representing 8 countries have gathered here to race on AC-45s, the fast, brutal testing wing sail catamarans from the America's Cup World Series. At stake is more than the newly minted Red Bull Youth America's Cup. This is a pathway into the pinnacle of sailing, the America's Cup. Following a grueling selection series at the beginning of the year, hundreds of hopefuls were cut down to an elite 60 to represent their countries of nationality. The dedicated young sailors aged between 19 and 24 have trained long and hard over the past months. They have given everything to be here to race against the best. Over the next week, the 10 teams will fight it out in daily fleet races. The stage is set. The training and preparation is over. It's time to perform. This is a glimpse into the sailing future. Dreams will become reality. The Red Bull Youth America's Cup starts now. And another beautiful day here in San Francisco, California, as the Golden Gate Bridge is partially shrouded by fog. But the Red Bull Youth America's Cup rolls on. Today we'll have 2 races for you in this format of 4 days, 8 races, 10 teams, and 8 nations represented. Before we get to the racing action, I want to remind you 2 races will take place. We'll kick things off in just a few moments here, 11:10 Pacific time, and then after that first race, we'll regroup and we'll race again. But before we get to that, of the 10 teams here, we want to introduce you to the first 5 with Kenny Reed.
Thank you, Todd. Objective of Australia is a full-blown all-star team, some of whom met for the first time when they came to San Francisco for the trials. Jason Waterhouse is the leader of the team, who is an Olympic catamaran hopeful for this sports-crazed nation.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, we really appreciate the opportunity we've been given. It's not every day you get to come to San Francisco, sail these fantastic boats and represent your country. So we're all very excited and looking forward to our race day. Boys know what they've got to do. I know what I've got to do, and together as a team, we're going to do it.
Next World Energy represents the very powerful French Sailing Federation, and they chose a team of young sailors from all around the country. Arsha Panwa is the skipper from the wing trimmer position, and pulled together a very diverse team of sailors with different sailing backgrounds.
It's a huge chance to sail on AC-45. It's also a chance to see how teams in the real America's Cup are working, and we can meet them and maybe create some contact for the future. And as a team, we succeeded in creating a real group, a real team. Now we are all friends, so we have the same goal of doing a good result, and we will see in the next 4 days how it will be.
All in racing is the great story of this event. After the Artemis tragedy, the German Sailing Federation pulled this team out, but the kids were on their own. And led by skipper Philip Buell, they found the necessary funds and got back into this event.
It's a huge honor in the first way, and it has been a long way for us and a hard way for us to get all that money and that budget to be able to compete here and also to qualify for this. And now we're here, and I think we are competitive and looking forward to give our very best to beat the others, or as much of the others as possible.
The Emirates Team New Zealand choice for the Red Bull Youth America's Cup. Peter Burling is a silver medalist in the 49er class. He was the skipper of Team Korea during one of the AC World Series events. Has to be considered one of the favorites for this event.
Yeah, well, we were selected by Emirates Team New Zealand a little earlier in the year, and all of us have been doing our own thing really since then. We've got a lot of Olympic sailors on our boat, so everyone's kind of been running their own campaign, but yeah, we've all come together over the last month or so, and yeah, got really fit and yeah, feeling really good going forward to today.
Full Metal Jacket Racing is full of talented young sailors, all growing up together at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Will Tiller has amassed quite a resume at his young age, rising to number 5 in the World Match Race Tour.
It's been about a sort of 8 months journey for Full Metal Jacket Racing. We, as soon as there was the announcement, we fully committed to the multi-hulls and just getting amongst it, and then we came here in February for the selection series, and yeah, we had a good regatta and we're lucky enough to get selected to compete.
So there is the start box as the boats jockey into position. It's great to have Ken Reed alongside, as well as Nathan Outteridge from Artemis Racing joining us here for commentary today. Now the fog is starting to come in from the Marin Headlands, and that is out near the Golden Gate Bridge. But Ken, the forecast looks to be a great day for sailing.
Well, it is a 7-leg course, unlike the 5 legs that we've seen in the Louis Vuitton series lately, for those of you who tuned into that. A little bit lighter breeze because we're starting earlier in the day, and the sea breeze hasn't been able to kick in to its normal sea breeze that San Francisco Bay sees. But we do have a reasonable amount of ebb tide, which is very different, pushing the boats out toward the Golden Gate Bridge, especially on the upwind legs. Only 13 knots of breeze, though, so this should be nice and stable for the first time out, Todd, in these boats.
Still about 4 minutes away from the official start of race number 1. 2 races scheduled each day here at the Red Bull Youth America's Cup, and we'll bring you all the stats information, bringing you on board as we do now. And you are looking at Will Tiller, Full Metal Jacket Racing, New Zealand 1. Now there are 2 Kiwi boats, there are 2 American boats, and that's the great part of fleet racing, gentlemen, is you get a lot of boats out there jockeying for position in these AC45s as we move on to the next boat, which is Objective Australia and their skipper, Jason Waterhouse.
Well, we'll get Nathan's opinion here because he has a lot more experience in this than you and I do, Todd. But there's some serious nerves in these kids right now. A lot of these teams have been going at this for over a year, preparing for this very moment. You got to believe that this is really, there's plenty of butterflies out there. And Nathan, how are they going to set up for this reaching start? It's different from any type of sailing these guys have ever done.
Yeah, you can imagine these guys have been practicing a long time in here in San Francisco. And you know, I've just been watching them, and they're just doing a few reach practices and just trying to get their time on distance right. And as we've seen over the last couple of months with the AC boats, that you know, time on distance is key. And with 10 boats, you make a small error, you're going to get punished pretty badly.
We'll have onboard cameras as well as audio. You'll hear as many as 4 or 5 different languages, depending on what the Swiss decide to speak in during this regatta. But you have the Americans, the Kiwis, the Aussies, who sometimes are hard to understand, but we'll make our best of it. But of course, you have the Germans, the French, and the Portuguese as well.
Nathan can translate his best Australian for us.
Yeah, I did a little bit of coaching with the Swedish guys, and yeah, I don't understand a word of Swedish, but thankfully they spoke a bit of English. But it's communication on these boats is super important. 6 people on board, and just getting everyone on the same page is always a very difficult thing to do.
So there you see the 10 teams representing 8 nations out in the start box. Germany on the right, France on the left. These are the AC45s that were used during the America's Cup World Series and the build-up to the 34th America's Cup. As we go back on board with one of the Australia teams as they try to put themselves in position. And Nathan, quick question to you is, these are now 6-man crews instead of the 5-man crews that you guys had for the America's Cup World Series. What is the biggest difference for these kids?
I think the biggest difference for them is they've now got this extra person on board, so if there's ever a little issue, they can always spare that 6th person to just go and tidy up the ropes. And you know, they've been out there practicing hard, and they know exactly what they need to do now.
So Todd, 1 minute to go here. You see the different strategies already. A bunch of blockers kind of gathered up on right near the starting area. You see one of the Kiwi boats coming in from the back end, trying to poach a spot, really trying to grab a position that somebody else has worked really hard to already open up. Interesting strategy. This is a really important part of this race for all these boats. 30 seconds to the start. We have a little problem with our timer up on the screen, so we'll count it down for you people. It's all about pulling the trigger. It's all about time and distance right now. None of the aggressiveness we've seen in the match racing. This is time and distance. 15 seconds to the start.
At 6, at 5, 6. Okay, we're good for a rotate, we're good for a rotate. 3, 2, 1. Go, work.
And we've got a clean start of the Red Bull Youth America's Cup, and a lot of enthusiasm, Ken and Nathan, out there on the water as the boys are off and sailing.
Really good start by the Kiwis and the Americans, NZL 1 and USA 1. This is all about pace right now, Nathan, and whether you want to be from the top end or the bottom end, the angle and the speed differences are quite different, aren't they?
Yeah, you can definitely see the boats windward end. The American team got a great start there and going quite fast, and the Germans are also starting to poke through. So, yeah, you can see how important it is to really get off the line quick out of the box.
So it's all in racing. The Germans going head-to-head with the Americans as they make their way to mark number 1. As Ken pointed out, this is a 7-leg race. We have race 1 right now, and then as soon as this one's over, we'll regroup for race number 2.
No, not yet. I got it, Ian. Go big!
So USA 1 American Youth Sailing Force with Michael Menninger as the helmsman. They are the first to the mark. The Germans have a little bit of problem there on the outside. The Swedes come into play.
This is going to be very popular, Todd, locally. This is the San Francisco entry, the Force. These guys have been training here for a while. They've known each other for a long time, but they brought in a different skipper. Michael Menninger was brought in and at the very last minute, and let's see if they can get around the racetrack. Gel as a team around the racetrack, a pretty impressive start.
So the Germans decide to head out into the deeper water. Americans are heading closer to shore as we look at that start one more time. And once again, the Germans and USA Team 1, American Youth Sailing Force, did a great job, Nathan, put themselves in the perfect spot.
Yeah, awesome job. Really good time on distance off the windward end, and you could see the windward end was favoured because they could really put the bow down and get it going fast. And what was interesting is Sweden looked like they were locked out at the start back there, but even in second row, they were able to roll everyone on that first reach.
So here we are back on course. This is leg number 2 of 7. USA 1 out in front.
No, we may do one more shot here. David. I say we do one and in. One and in. Thank you.
They sound really calm on board. You know, they've got a really good lead here, and they're just talking about which bottom mark they want to pick from here. And really nice. They went straight into the shore, out of the ebb current, and should be nice and easy for them to have a nice bottom mark rounding from here.
Now, Ken, the Germans decided to head back out to deeper waters. Was that the smart call, or are they setting themselves up for the second mark?
Well, it's really where you round that first mark, Todd. If you're on the inside and there's a lot of disturbed air on top of you, you don't have a choice. You have to do what's called a jibe set and kind of get your air clear as quick as possible. I think everybody set themselves up pretty well for how they had to deal with that Mark 1 and the disturbed air from your competition.
This is on board the French boat.
How's your French, Todd?
Not so très bien.
Your runner cube.
So here they are at gate number 2. USA 1 leads it. That's American Youth Sailing Force. Michael Menninger is their helmsman. Ian Andrews, Solomon Cravens, Evan Sjostedt, Cooper Dressler, and David Liebenberg.
Big wing up, Evan. Third twist. Big wing up, big wing up, big wing up.
At gate 2, USA 1 has the lead, and now it's Portugal that has moved into second place.
One thing that's very clear is they've had almost a month of training here in these boats, Todd. Their crew handling has gotten really good. It's rare. I've been watching these guys race now for almost a week of practice, and it's pretty rare you see a major mistake on the race course. I'm really happy for the Americans right now. These guys have put a lot into just to get here. They aren't the wealthiest team here, that's for sure. They're living in an office building, on the floor of an office building. It's what they've done just to get here in the first place. Very impressive.
Nathan, you've had a chance to sail these AC-45s, which you did during the America's Cup World Series, making the jump to the AC-72s that they're competing with at the America's Cup. What is the biggest difference other than the size of that wing?
Oh, things just happen so much faster on the 72, and the 45s here, you can see them coming into the bottom mark, and they can make their decision very late as to which mark to go to, whereas on the 72, you're planning out your bottom mark rounding from a long way out, and from obviously, you know, the 72s, we only get to race one other boat, so that's a big difference as well. But I'm interested to see how Pete Burling's going to go here. He's just taken the mark, he's heading out offshore, and first person to split from the leader, so interesting to see when they come back and make the cross.
Peter Burling, the helmsman for New Zealand 2, the sailing team with Emirates Team New Zealand.
Also interesting that one of the pre-race favorites, the Australians, Nathan, rounded that first gate last. I think that's actually kind of remarkable.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they look like they just missed their time on distance on the start and got rolled by all the windward boats, and from there it's going to be very interesting to see if they can come back into this race at all. It's a long race, as you said, 7 legs, so we'll wait our moment before we make a decision on how they're going.
Getting headed here, David. Yeah, I know. Just letting him know.
So it's USA, Portugal, and Sweden, your top three at the moment. This is leg number 3 of 7. And the American team of Michael Meninger at the helm is out in front, and you know they're keeping a keen eye on Portugal that is off to their left-hand side.
Portuguese are maxed on court above us. We got 360 till boundary. 360, boundary's not a problem. Copy that.
Constant flow of information even for these young guys.
Just great communication. And they're going back and forth. David Liebenberg is the tactician on board the boat. A lot of these guys are college sailors. A lot of them are skiff sailors here from up in the bay in Richmond. These guys have been training really hard for this event. I couldn't be happier for them at this very moment. But it's a long regatta, Todd.
I think all the way here. Out a little bit there. Wings good there.
Nathan, you want to talk about hiking over the hull? These kids are taking it to a whole new level.
Yeah, they've realized the harder you hike, the faster these boats go. So they've made sure those hiking straps are nice and loose, and they're swinging it down as hard as they can.
My Portuguese even worse than my French as we go on board the team sitting in second place. Portugal, Rolf Sailing. And this is a team that came together and doing quite well here on leg number 3.
Sueco já virou, cruzamos bem à proa. USA a virar.
I don't understand any Portuguese, but it sounds like they're just trying to get all the way up to the right-hand side. You can see them indicating where they're going, and the whole key is to try and bounce from boundary to boundary up this race course, and they're probably starting to talk about which top mark they want to go around and how they can catch the American team.
Bernardo Freitas is their helmsman. We heard from Antonio Melo, the wing trimmer and skipper for the Portuguese boat.
The helmsman was 8th in the 49er class in the last Olympics, I believe. And all these kids are coming from fast dinghies for the most part. Every team, I think, is sprinkled with a couple big, strong, big boat sailors that understand the loads. But for the most part, the drivers of these boats are coming from fast dinghies, a lot of Olympic experience.
Got 220. Going soft zone A.
Sounds like a Kiwi accent to me there, and what he's talking about is you hear every time he says a number, he's talking about how far it is to the boundary, and that's so key because that gives you an indication to everyone on board is when to get prepared for the next tack. And you can see here there's a few little position changes as we're going up this beat, so interesting to see how they're going to be when we get close to the top mark.
This is Full Metal Jacket Racing, New Zealand 1, Will Tiller, the skipper.
3, 2, 1, taking air, quite soft out this sun.
A little bit of a difference on the tack there, moving from one side to the other than an AC-72, isn't it?
Yeah, the 45, you don't have to travel as far, but there's a lot of things to jump over. You've got jib sheets, runners, you've got the spine in the middle of the boat. And I remember the first time I sailed on a 45, I had blood dripping all the way down my shins because I didn't realize there was a rope in front of me and just tripped straight over it. So these guys have obviously worked that out pretty quickly.
Closing in on 400 meters to the mark.
Good pressure all the way in.
Swedish guys making a really close cross there on port tack. It'll be interesting to see how that happens when we get to the top. It's all about inches here. You know, you're trying to get at the top mark, and you want to choose your mark and get a nice overlap on the other teams as you come around.
Charlie Ekberg, a lot like Peter Burling, two of the only skippers who have had an opportunity to sail these, and they took part in the Naples leg of the America's Cup World Series, having a chance to go out and sail against the very best, and so they probably have a little bit of a leg up. But right now it's the Americans out in front. USA 1 American Youth Sailing Force with Michael Meninger, and Portugal sitting in second place.
I think they've also set themselves up really well on this leg. Typically there's a left shift on the top of this leg coming off of the greens up there. These guys have sailed on the verge of a perfect leg here, Nathan. It's pretty impressive. First race, biggest race of your life, probably, for a lot of these kids.
Yeah, they'd be pretty stoked with how they're traveling at the moment. You know, everyone was trying to get the perfect start, and the American boys have done an awesome job. Great start, no errors so far, and really good lay line to that mark to get into the fresh air, you know, once they go around the right-hand top mark.
Stand by. Deploying in 3.
So here they are at mark number 4, Team USA 1 out in front. Michael Meninger doing a fantastic job for the Americans as the wind picks up to 16 knots, and the Americans Get a little taste of bay water right there, but they square things away, and now they're going to head out and see what happens.
Fucking hit, big wing here, big wing. You kidding me, dude? Deep breath. Fuck, you just fouled.
It looked like there when the Americans went round, they just were a little too close and clipped the mark. So,
and it looks like New Zealand is flying there. New Zealand 1 is flying their Yankee flag. So a protest coming, and the penalty does come from the umpire. So USA 1, you said, I think we just fouled Micah Menninger. You did, in fact, foul. And Ken, go through the lights for us really quick that they'll be looking at. The blue light means?
Yeah, blue light means that they had a penalty. They're on port tack, came around the mark, on port tack, completely discombobulated. They hit the mark, which I believe is okay. Penalty is now complete, but they were on port tack in the way of starboard tackers coming upwind. That's pretty unforced error, but you know, like I said before, first race, biggest race of your life, there's still got to be some butterflies out there, not completely unexpected.
They did a great job there. They got the penalty, realized it quickly, and stopped straight away. Penalty line goes straight past you, and they're still winning the race. So, you know, it wasn't the end of the world, and they did a really good job of managing that situation.
So mark number 3, leg number 4, the Americans get their penalty done. It's 2 boat lengths. They have to come to almost a standstill and close the gap down, but they have got such a sizable lead now on Portugal. The penalty didn't hurt them that much, but Ken, you talk about it, it's an unforced error.
Unforced error. You heard him say, take a deep breath. And that's really, as the skipper, that's exactly what you should say in that situation.
So the Portuguese now sitting in second place as we go on board with them. Bernardo Freitas, the helmsman.
These kids just look under control. You know, all these teams, they just look sorted. You know, whether they're first or 10th right now, they look really sorted out, which, you know, testimony to how hard these teams have trained for this event.
Well, mark number 3 is where all the drama really took place for USA 1. Here it is one more time as they go around there, and they actually hook on board.
Oh, and almost lost off the running backstay. Almost lost somebody off the back of the boat.
Look at this one more time. Nathan, has it ever happened to you?
We've clipped them a few marks before, but this one looked relatively violent for the amount of wind strength. And watch the boys here. They hold on it, scramble to the back, almost over the back. Good stuff. Great to see.
And that was number 6, David Liebenberg, who almost went off the back. They would have been down to 5, but he holds on. That's youth right there.
Well, that's going to be a little tape that they're going to show their grandkids someday, I guarantee you. This race has gotten closer, though. They got to get their act back together again. They got to sort things out, take that deep breath that they were talking about.
Hold furl!
It's good on-board footage there of watching how, you know, physical these boats are. They've got to furl the Jenicas in the jibe, then they've got to get their timing right, boards up, boards down, and, you know, these guys are polished. You know, they're doing a great job, and looks like they've got a little bit too far on the ley line here, but you'd always prefer to go a little further than come in slow.
So as we take a look at this from the overhead view, Nathan, if you are USA Team 1, which way are you heading after you hit this mark?
To me, it looks like you'd want to just continue to go straight here. It's going to be a faster maneuver, but you can see, you know, looking up the course, there's a little bit of pressure up on the inside shore. So looks like, yeah, they're going for the jibe. Slightly more difficult maneuver, but, you know, probably better long-term for pressure.
So at mark number 4, USA 1, American Youth Sailing Force still has the lead, although an unforced error on that last leg when they fouled the Kiwis, but they maintain their lead, and Portugal now closing the gap as they come in on second place.
I think the Americans got a little lucky there, Nathan. It would have been easy for the Portuguese just to split and go the other way and make things a little nervous for the next 4 or 5 minutes, but they got pretty lucky there. Their second place person fell in line, and that's always a nice feature when you're winning the race.
That's exactly what you're hoping for. When you're leading the race, you hope that the boat following you goes around the same mark. You can see the Kiwi boat here going out to the right-hand side, really going to take, you know, a good shot at trying to make some gains, whereas Portugal's probably happy locking in a second at the moment and just waiting for the Americans to make a mistake.
So that's New Zealand 2 with Peter Burling at the helm that decides to go heading towards Alcatraz Island, and they split the course. The Portuguese and the Americans go closer to shore.
That's youth as well, Todd. No shirt. No, it's cold out there. That's youth.
I didn't see once Nathan Outridge out there with no sleeves on.
He was in a snow outfit out there half the time.
It's really cold out there. That's why I'm wearing wetsuits, dry suits, everything I can. And when you're driving a 72, you're not grinding anything. These guys are working hard the whole time, whereas I was just hanging onto a wheel. So, you know, I got cold pretty quickly.
So the Swiss make the mark. Helmsman Lucien Grosjean. And here come the Aussies. It's not been their best day as Jason Waterhouse, the skipper there, trying to figure out which way they want to go. Looks like they're going to make a last-minute tactical move here and jibe and head back out to deeper waters.
The one thing, Todd, that all these skippers have been talking about, all the crewmen have been talking about during the practice racing is how mixed the fleet gets. So a bad race does not mean a regatta over. It's a long event, and there's plenty of opportunity for error, plenty of opportunity for success. So these guys are just going to have to regroup. If they don't make the miraculous comeback, a big regroup and just get ready for race 2.
8 races over 4 days, and remember the last race brings extra points, so keep yourself towards the top of the leaderboard, be consistent, and then all hang out when it comes to Wednesday and the final day of racing.
120.
Yeah, I remember when we were doing the 45 racing in the World Series, our goal was just to be top 4 every race. If we could finish in the top 4 every race, that gives us a really good chance going into the last day. So, you know, the American guys will be really happy with where they are, and you know, they need to finish off the job in this race, but they're probably also starting to think about what are we going to do in the next race. We need to repeat this because it'd be so easy to just have a bad start and end up at the back of the fleet again.
On board with America Youth Sailing Force, USA 1. They have the lead. This is like 5 of 7.
Pressure's better on the inside. I think we take this next puff back in.
Good communication on the boat, isn't it? Really good communication. And the reason why it sounds so loud is the guys up the front of the boat, hiking up the front, is generally where the tactician sits. So he can have a really good view of the race course. And he's just calling communication to the skipper, you know, what's the plan now? Where are we going next?
Board to 1. Down a little, Coop. Solomon, board down a hair.
That was a pretty effective tack, how quickly made that happen.
They did let the Portuguese split pretty far left, though. They left a slight door open again for the Portuguese team, but it looks like they're crossing no problem.
It does look very tricky on the race course today. You know, they're racing a lot closer to the shore than what we've been racing in the 72s, and you get in those last few hundred meters closer to the shore, and it gets quite puffy in there, and it's really, you know, important to make sure you're entering and exiting that seawall over there at the right time.
So as the Portuguese make their tack, it is now Peter Burling in New Zealand 2. The sailing team with Emirates New Zealand has made the greatest gain. Remember, they split the course on the last gate. Now they are almost even with the Portuguese, and the battle for second place as the Americans get set to make the move at Mark 5.
Kind of like the 72s, Todd. The best thing we can do is just lay out and listen to these kids talk, because it's just fascinating, and it's amazing how poised they are at such a young age. That's just great to see. It's great to see, not just for this event, but for the sport in general. There's a future. Now that Nathan's a veteran out here on the TV with us.
Now that I've retired from sailing and joining you boys here. I tell you where I'd prefer to be. I'd much prefer to be out there racing with all these guys at the moment. And guys like Peter Burling and Bernardo, you know, I've been racing against them in the 49ers for the last few years, and you know, it's great to see them getting their chance at this, and I'm looking forward to racing them, you know, very soon coming up in the 49er Worlds.
Good look at the Portuguese as the Americans now are about to hit that ley line as they come in. Now they're going to have to set themselves up, Ken, for a good situation here at gate number 5, because as they head back downwind, they're going to have some traffic coming their way, and it's a short run to that last gate.
Yeah, and For sure, Todd, they have that last weather mark routing on their minds right now. Let's just do it a little cleaner than the last one, because about 15 things went wrong in the last one. And maybe a little bit of inexperience cutting that mark a little close, but we've all been there before. We've all made those mistakes before, just maybe not on such a world stage.
1, 2, 3, yes!
The trend on all these boats was the tactician going all the way forward. It looks like they're doing that with David up on the bow. Is that right? Is that what you guys ended up doing, Nathan?
Yeah, it was always the best spot, you know, put the tactician forward. He can have a really good view. The difficult thing was the communication. You're about 30 foot away from the guy trying to talk to and driving the boat. But, you know, they've obviously been watching very closely what we've been doing in the World Series and doing a great job of everything.
So at mark number 5, USA 1 maintains their lead. They've had it for the entire race, and the lead continues to build. A cleaner turn on mark 5. They'll head back downwind, and it's a short run to gate number 6 and the turn to the right hand and the finish line.
We got USA 45 on the bow. They should be in front of us.
Looks like the Kiwis in a really good gain here. You know, America's often probably going to win this race without an issue, but it'll be interesting to see what Pete Burling does here and forces the Portuguese to tack. Big moment in the race here, and Pete will probably just tack around the right-hand mark, and that's looking like a good gain for Pete there.
Let's see if his code 0 has a problem, though. You see the flapping code 0 on the NZL2 boat. Let's see if it has an hourglass as it comes out. See if they can get it out cleanly.
Western best fladdle. Feather and fladdle. Stand by, Joe.
And a lot of traffic coming into mark 5. The Germans coming in very fast. They've got Sweden on their left-hand side. France will avoid that confusion, and they'll head to the right marker.
It's kind of fun to see a boat race again. I mean, and nothing against what we've been watching in the match racing, but I mean, this is action. This is real action that everybody, especially sailors around the world, can really sink their teeth into. And it's just fun to watch head-to-head battles, changing of sails, actual jibing of different sails, putting up. What a concept! It's great to see.
Nathan, you've been out on the AC-72s for Artemis Racing. Do you ever foresee a day when the AC-72s could have fleet racing?
Well, that'd be very, very interesting to see, and I would love to see that happen, and hopefully in the future we'll get something like that. You know, the 72 is an amazing boat to sail, but the 45s is where it is at today, and you know, we've been seeing some great racing and little battles throughout the race, and the American guys have done an excellent job today, and I'll let you bring them into the finish here. Really good race, polished really nicely.
America is at gate 6 and make the turn to the finish line. USA, America Youth Sailing Force, and their skipper and helmsman Michael Menninger get the job done here in race number 1. It all started with a fantastic start. They timed it perfectly, and it will be Youth Sailing Force, American 1, getting the first win.
I thought we were going to pitch ball.
And Michael Menninger,
just a little more exuberance than the pros,
Kevin.
Just a little bit more.
The boys are pretty excited about that, as remember, it's a 8-race regatta, and they pick up the first win. And look at this gain by New Zealand 2. A fantastic job by Peter Burling. If you go all the way back to mark number 4, where he decided to split the course with the Portuguese, and he headed back to deeper water.
They did have a problem getting their code 0 unfurled, but they had to do one less maneuver on this run. Rounding the right-hand gate on this last leg is very important. You only have one jibe into the finish. They had one jibe, the Portuguese had 2. That's pretty much the difference right there.
So New Zealand 2 grabs second place, and coming to third, a strong performance by the Portuguese. Rofe Racing, the boys got a great start, hung with the Americans for a long time, but it was on mark number 4 that the Kiwis made the pass.
I think you're seeing Peter Burling really show his stuff here. That was just a veteran move in a way, in a youth fleet of getting back from a lousy start for the most part, and just working his way up through the fleet.
New World Energy, the French squad, they will grab 4th place. And how about the Germans and the Swedes? They are racing to the line. The Germans have about a boat length lead, and looks like they are going to be able to hold off Charlie Ekberg and the Swedish Youth Challenge for 5th. So the man with no sleeves there getting it done. It does not look as cold as Ken Reed would be.
youth.
Full Metal Jacket Racing, New Zealand won, comes across the line. Now, the big question I have for you, Nathan, is they've been out there now in racing situations. How much improvement do you expect to see now going forward to race 2?
Yeah, I think you'll see, you know, the guys at the back really desperate and hungry to, you know, improve and really work their way back up into the fleet. And, you know, they'll be thinking about what happened at the start and how to get back into it. And you can see here, these are the final 2 teams coming in. You know, no positions are going to change here, and they're just about thinking and preparing about, you know, the next race.
USA 2, USA 45 Racing with their skipper and helmsman, Charlie Buckingham, a 2-time College Sailor of the Year at Georgetown out of Newport Beach, California. They'll come through, won't get dead last. That honor, unfortunately, will go to the Aussies, Nathan. And I don't know what happened with Objective Australia and Jason Waterhorse, but they're going to have to pick it up here for the next race.
They will, and they don't have a lot of time. You know, the time between this race finishing and the next one starting is not very long. So they've got to be able to quickly get that out of their mind. You know, perhaps there's some kind of damage to their boat that they might have to look at. You can see them sailing the last run even without a code 0. So, you know, perhaps they have an issue on board that they need to sort out before the next race.
Jason Waterhouse, their skipper. James Worzbowski, Tom Burton, Ted Hackney, Luke Parkinson, and Fang Warren on the bow.
Looks like they have a stripped. It looks like they're trying to milk the cover over a piece of line there, Nathan. They might have had a halyard problem or some sort of stripped cover, possibly.
Yeah, looking at the fact that the code 0 is not fully hoisted, maybe you're right there. The cover might have blown and the jammer in the top of the rig isn't holding it. And if that's the case, then that's a big issue to get fixed quickly.
So the boys from Australia bring it home. So all 10 boats across the finish line. Race number 1 is complete, and it is USA 1 American Youth Sailing Force that gets the victory. Michael Meninger and his crew did a fantastic job, and it all began with the start line. The boys put themselves in a great position. And Ken, that's got to be a little tricky because you get 10 boats in a fleet race for these guys the first time on these craft and getting out there and trying to figure their way to the line.
Well, we're all trained to start race boats from when we're very, very young. But this is a completely different start. This reaching start in these high-powered machines is something that none of us have ever done before until this type of series. So I give these guys full credit for jumping out of the blocks, but they can't get too high. They have to keep a nice even keel. They got 7 races to go.
And we are now able to go on board with American Youth Sailing Force and their helmsman, Michael Meninger, out of Newport Beach, California. Michael, congratulations. You guys get the first victory. You're a long way from St. Mary's, but it's glad to have you here in San Francisco. Take us through the start and how you guys put yourself in such great position.
Yeah, just to go back, it is the first race, so we have a lot more to go. And yeah, we did have a great start. We knew we kind of wanted the boat end because there's a little bit more breeze up at the boat and a little bit of flood as well. So we wanted the boat end, and we got set up pretty well at about a minute. We were in a good spot, and we just pulled the trigger at the right time and got to mark 1 first.
Hey, Michael, great job. Kenny Reed here. Listen, take us around that weather mark. You had a couple little issues, maybe unexpected. It looked a little hairy there for a second.
Yeah, there's a little more scope on that mark than we were practicing with. So I don't know which blade got the anchor line, but we hooked the anchor line and we pitch pulled a little bit. But luckily it broke off and we were able to sail around it.
All right, Michael, we'll let you get ready for the next race. Congratulations on 1 win, 7 more to go.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
So that was Michael Meninger, American Youth Sailing Force out of Newport Beach, California. They get the win in race number 1. We're getting ready for race number 2, but let's go back and look at race 1 here of the Red Bull Youth America's Cup alongside Kenny Reed and Nathan Outteridge. Nathan, everyone looked to be in the best position, but it was the Americans who got to mark 1 first.
Well, as you can hear you say, you know, he was wanting to start at the windward end. He did a really good job of the acceleration, and he had a little more wind there.
Here they are at Mark 1, Ken, and again, the Americans with the Portuguese, the Germans, and the Swedes close behind.
Their boat handling on all these boats has become terrific. And I think the fact that they know what to do, they're well coached, all these boats really are fully sorted in race 1 of the biggest regatta of their lives.
And there you saw the Germans really going up high, almost coming down on top of Charlie Ekberg and the Swedes, the Portuguese, unfolding their code 0. But it was the Americans who got out first to lead the way.
They took off. They didn't look behind. They had that one glitch at the second gate, but they poise when you get ahead and you actually lengthen your lead. good things happen. Now here's not poise. Here's where they hooked the mark on their starboard aft rudder. Almost lost one of the guys off the back of the boat. I mean, it almost went really pear-shaped on that one, Nathan. That's not exactly how you write it in the script.
No, that's not exactly not what they were thinking at all. And they did a great job coping with it.
This was the unforced error, guys, as they got awfully close to New Zealand 1. I mean, really close.
And New Zealand protested them, rightly so. It was a windward leeward. The boat going upwind has the right of way. Boat going downwind has to get out of the way.
And at the finish line, it was the American squad, American Youth Sailing Force, that gets the victory in race number 1.
Just the exuberance of youth, Todd. This is more emotion than we saw out of the Kiwis when they won the Louis Vuitton Cup, I believe.
Portuguese would come across the line doing a great job, and it was New Zealand that would hold on for second place. Portuguese grabbed third, and then the French coming through as well. So as we take a look at the point standings, 1 race complete of 8 here at the Red Bull Youth America's Cup, and it is the American squad, Team 1, who get the win. They complete the course in 23 minutes and 29 seconds. The win really not that big of a factor, but just put themselves, Ken and Nathan, in a perfect situation with New Zealand and then the Portuguese finishing out the top 3.
A 44-second victory is a big victory. You know, that's a big lead, Nathan, and I'm just impressed by the fact that they had that mistake, they got their composure, got it together, and then stretched again. Very impressive.
Yeah, they've done a great job, and very impressive to see. And we're looking forward to another race coming up here soon. And I'm sure they're going to have the same strategy. Really good start, and just slowly keep getting away from the fleet.
All right, we introduced you to the first 5 teams here at the Red Bull Youth America's Cup. Let's introduce you to the next 5, kicking things off with Team Portugal.
The ROF Qashqai Racing Team is Portugal's entry into this Red Bull event. 1 year ago, they started to compile this team. Antonio Melo, skippers from the wing position, with a very diverse set of sailors from Olympic classes to offshore racing.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. 2 years ago, I never thought that I'll be here when the America's Cup was in Qashqai. I was working for the America's Cup. And yeah, it was a dream just to be there working, and now 2 years later I'm here sailing on those boats with learning from the guys that were there, so yeah, it's a dream.
The Swedish Youth Challenge is sponsored by Artemis Racing and has as much experience as anyone here in the AC45s. Skipper Charlie Ekberg drove for the Artemis team in the Naples World Series event.
They have gathered the best sailors from all the different classes in our age group, so it's people that I've seen during my Olympic campaign time, but I've never competed against them, so this will be really fun, and I hope that we can prove that 49er sailors are the best sailors.
Team Tilt is the Swiss entry for this event and has as much training in catamarans as any team here in the very competitive D35 class on Lake Geneva. Lucien Coujon is the skipper of the team, said to be very fast in these wing-sailed cats.
I live my dream, and this is the same for the guys on my team. It's the first time in the history of the America's Cup. It's open to the best youth sailor, and we make a very good job in Switzerland and with the Société Nautique de Genève to build a new team, and we are ready to fight for this.
The American Youth Sailing Force is the San Francisco entry, made up of youth sailors predominantly from the Richmond Yacht Club. Michael Meninger is the exception, though, brought in to helm this boat from another Youth AC team. This team clearly in race 1 showed that it's gelled.
I'm really looking forward to this regatta. This is one of the biggest regattas that I'll probably be sailing in a long time, and we're taking it very seriously, but we're also having a lot of fun. We have a really good team behind us, and we're a very close-knit group on and off the water, and I think that's going to play to our advantage.
US 45 Racing is an all-star team from all around the United States. Charlie Buckingham is a 2-time College Sailor of the Year from Georgetown University, but he has to translate his dinghy racing skills to these high-powered wing-sailed cats.
Yeah, it's hard to say. There's so many talented teams and a lot of talented sailors out there. I think it's anyone's game at this point, so we're just going to focus on our processes, and I think if we sail to our potential, we can do well.
Alcatraz Island in the foreground as you see the boats getting ready for race number 2 here of the Red Bull Youth America's Cup.
Nathan, it's all about shaking that first race off. If you had a bad if you had a bad result, and it's all about trying to carry some momentum forward if you had a good result, not getting too high. So let's start at the back of the fleet. How do these guys get their act together a little bit for this next race?
I think, you know, the guys who didn't have the race they were expecting are really wanting to just get back out there, you know, go through, do probably a couple of practice starts and just really nail that start. If you can nail the start, that's half the race over and done with, and that's the real focus going forward.
Well, they will have an opportunity to practice some of those starts because we have a delay on the course right now as the wind has picked up, peaking at near 19 knots. So we've been pushed back to 11:56 local time as you see the helmsmen for all 10 teams that are competing here. And the Americans, of course, Charlie Buckingham and Mike Menninger looking for something more. But I'll tell you what, they are being coached by the very best, the men that have made this all possible and the men that are tutoring them, two-time Olympic gold medalists that are making this all happen and leading the way at the Red Bull Youth America's Cup.
Russell Coutts came up with the idea when he set up for the America's Cup, and he already had in his mind to do the Youth America's Cup, and yeah, then he needed actually someone who is behind all this, and that was Red Bull. And now we have the Red Bull Youth America's Cup here in San Francisco, and it's racing time.
At the beginning we had 40 nations which entered the Red Bull Youth America's Cup. Then we select them down to 12. Then we invite them here to San Francisco. Then they sailed the first time the AC45. And then we broke down them to 5. And now we have the 5 best teams out of the selection, plus 5 teams which are supported by the existing AC45 America's Cup teams.
I think the hunger you see here, you never see like with the big guys. I mean, it's amazing how much effort they put into this, to come here and now to be here and now to race. They were working like full time, and yeah, it's really, really good to see these guys, these young guys now coming into the sports of the big guys.
So there's the view of the San Francisco Bay. The Golden Gate Bridge is shrouded in fog. Wind is the issue right now as it is peaking at 18.9 knots. And Ken, the threshold really is closer to around 17.5. So they're good right now, but it all depends on the current as we are now 8 minutes away from the start.
This is still all about safety, Todd. We've mentioned this all through the Louis Vuitton series and the America's Cup events. They set these wind limits for a reason. These boats are really powered up, and they don't want to create any unforeseen situations. I think the Australians also have a small problem on their boat. You see them reeving a new halyard into their mast for their Code Zero. Like we saw right at the end of that last race, they had some problems with their halyard that probably slowed them down all the way around the track.
So the delay, a good thing for Objective Australia's squad as they came in last in race number 1. And Nathan, speaking to what Ken was talking about of how powerful these are, you have sailed the 45s and the 72s. Do you agree with the wind limits?
Yeah, I think they're necessary. You know, all sailing has wind limits, and it's a question of determining how strong those wind limits are. And you know, it's really important to make sure we keep the sport safe. And I've sailed these boats a lot, and for sure the wind limits are definitely, you know, required. And, you know, no one knew how quickly these guys were going to learn how to sail these boats, so that's why they're a little bit lighter than what they would have been for when we were doing the World Series events.
So all teams heading up to get themselves into position as we approach 7 minutes to go. I want to go back to race number 1, and it was at mark number 3 where USA won with a lead. American Youth Sailing Force got a little close. What went wrong here, Nathan, and what would you tell them to do differently?
It looks like their dagger board's just clipped like the anchor line. So underneath the mark there, they have an anchor line that goes to the bottom. And, you know, they've probably been used to sailing around the marks a lot further away than that. And this time they just shaved a little bit too close. And it could have gone really bad for them. But, you know, luckily it just clipped off and they could continue racing.
Watch the man on the back there. And you heard them all say, Kenny, we thought we were going to pitch pole.
Well, it's actually a phenomenal set of events. Not only clipping the mark, but they actually keep their composure really well and to go fast enough to sail themselves into a foul, into a penalty situation. You know, if they had slowed down actually a little bit here, they wouldn't have gotten themselves into a foul. So it was just a whole number of events that stacked up and really didn't go their way, but they kept it together. That's the good news.
You saw number 6, David Liebenberg. He was a man that was almost thrown off the back when they came to an almost complete halt. And the team all accounted for now as we are under 6 minutes to go for race number 2 at the Red Bull Youth America's Cup here in San Francisco, alongside veteran sailor Kenny Reed and Nathan Outeridge, the skipper for Artemis Racing that competed during the Louis Vuitton Cup. Glad to have them both with me here in the booth. I'm Todd Harris on a beautiful day in San Francisco and a great day for racing. Maybe the biggest surprise in race number 1 are the Portuguese, and not in the sense that they finished as high as they did, which was 3rd place, but the Portuguese came out here and really, Nathan, did a fantastic job from the start. Lost it towards the end with the Kiwis, but they had a great race.
Yeah, they did an amazing job. They, just played it safe and sound. They knew they had a good start. They made no errors. They weren't going high risk. It didn't look they were trying to attack the Americans too much. They know it's a long series. They know there's a lot of races to go. So they know, anywhere in the top 3 is a good result for them.
And they did finish 3rd in the first race of 8. And remember, the 8th race brings extra points as we now go under 5 minutes to go. So the Australians continue to try to make repairs on their boat. And as we take a look on the onboard camera, looks like the Aussies have got it partially figured out, Ken. Now, this is not like the Louis Vuitton Cup where you have a card in your back pocket that you can say, let's just wave this race off. This thing's going to happen whether the Aussies are ready or not.
Well, they took the jib down while they tried to reeve out what looked like to be their code 0 halyard. They put a new halyard in. Now they're putting their jib back up. They should have plenty of time. I mean, it's a little unnerving. You're within 5 minutes of the start. It's taken you out of your pre-start practice sequence, possibly, Nathan, but I think these guys will get it together in time enough. A lot of times, you have this adversity, and before you know it, you have the best start of your whole, because you're not thinking about it. So maybe you have the best start of the whole series.
Well, let's hope that's the case for these guys, because they've been working and training so hard, and there's nothing worse than to have a bad race and then have something go wrong or a breakage. So they're just going to get up to the start with probably just enough time, and they're just going to have one chance to do a nice slingshot. And as you said, usually that's the best time you get your best start.
So the repairs continue to be made on Objective Australia. Their skipper, Jason Waterhouse. Boys doing a great job making the repairs and the open seas. And there you see all the onboards as everyone gets themselves into position for this 2nd race of the Red Bull Youth America's Cup.
Looks like Germany's doing something too with their jib there at the moment, and really interesting to see. Some crews are sitting down resting. These boats are seriously physical boats to sail and not easy at all. And this would be the last thing you want to be doing, is trying to make some adjustments with only 3 minutes to go.
That is number 6, Max
Wir fahren
Kohlhoff
jetzt in dem Moment mal kurz hoch.
on the bow.
Wir müssen hoch.
This is not the time you want to be taking your jib down, Todd. 3 minutes to go before the start. So they have a little issue here. I'm not sure what it is, but
Hey, warte, stopp, Kohlhoff.
I wish I could tell you what they were saying, but I unfortunately can't.
So we're under 3 minutes, and it's the Germans now who are having their issues. Eric Heil, the helmsman there, with his hand on the tiller.
Safe.
You can see them looking at their watch. They know they don't have much time to go here. So, the skipper's trying to get the boat back up towards the start line, getting it ready in case they can repair this problem. But it looks like there's a zipper issue there, on the luff of the jib that, is causing an issue for them at the moment.
Okay, wir müssen hier überlegen, wir können wieder einen Luftstart machen. Das Ding ist fast Leyline. Wenn wir es noch 100 Meter schaffen in einer ganz tiefen Lane, in die Halslinie.
It is crucial that the skipper just keeps concentrating on where he wants to position himself on the start line. I've been in this exact situation a few months ago in a regatta, and you as the helmsman, you just have to concentrate on where you are. Almost completely ignore the problem on the boat. Just hope like crazy that the guys can sort it out, but you have to get the boat ready to actually start.
Eric Heil, hand on the tiller, hoping that the repairs can be made. Meanwhile, the Americans
Like to not go below FMJ if possible.
into good position.
All right, minute and a half before the start. Aussies are looking to shake out shake off what was a pretty bad start before. They're coming in late. They're actually coming in from the wrong side of the start line right now and looking for a hole.
That's New Zealand 1 full metal jacket.
The Australians are forced to go all the way down at the low end, at the bottom of our screen, mainly because they're coming into the start box really late. You think they're late. There's the Germans coming in, just getting on the correct side of the starting line right now. So a little out of sorts for these two teams with possible problems to equipment.
All right, Nathan, with 45 seconds to go before they hit the line, where would you want to be right now if you were on the water?
Well, you know, to me, it's looking like the windward end's looking pretty good again. You see the Swedes just pulled right in front of everyone, and you know, those group at the front end, I imagine at the top of the course, are going to be looking like they're going to be in good shape at Mark 1.
All time and distance here at this stage now, Todd. 23 seconds to go. Nathan, it's hard for these guys to actually figure out where the line is because you're kind of turned sideways to it. It's a completely different feeling, isn't it?
It's very foreign to what you're used to starting at. You're starting at 90 degrees to the line here, and these boats accelerate so fast. They're doing 3-4 knots at the moment, and when they want to get going, they'll be easily doing 24 knots. So, you know, watch them here. You know, no one's going to be over in this one. It looks like it's a really good start in the middle by the Kiwi team there.
New Zealand won with a great start. Will Tiller puts his boat in a good position. The Americans at the bottom of the screen. American Youth Sailing once again. Michael Menninger doing a fantastic job.
Softer up front. Go in. Big legs.
And the Swiss are flying their Yankee flag, so they have got a protest underway as the umpires take a look at it one more time. It looks like, Ken, the Americans might be a little low.
It's just really going to be difficult. It's the consistency off the starting line that's going to determine the winner of this event. I think all their crew work has gotten great on all the boats, but starting is going to help determine the pecking order for every single race. Just a crucial part of every single race we sail in.
At mark number 1, it is the Kiwis out in front. Charlie Ekberg and the Swedes sitting in second place in almost a SIG alert by the rest of the fleet as they come through. But it's New Zealand 1 full metal jacket racing that gets the whole shot.
And look at that, Germany third around the mark, straight into a jibe. You know, they had so much on before that race, and they managed to get there just in time. And you know, that'd be really nice for them on board, just to settle down now and get into this race.
And a great jibe set at the mark to avoid all that disturbed air. Really good jibe set, got out of the pack. Very impressive by the Germans, just to be in the race in the first place.
All in racing, Eric Heil, the helmsman. Max Kohlholl, who's doing work just a minute before the race began, and they get it done. But it's the Kiwis out in front. Full metal jacket racing is your leader, Charlie Ekberg, and Sweden sitting in second place. Swedish Youth Challenge. And there's the view from the lead.
Just great views from on board these boats, Todd and Nathan. Like Nathan said, you wish you were out there, but this is as close as you're going to be and still be dry.
Copy.
Just great listening to the onboard chat, isn't it?
Yeah, good there.
Do you reckon we take a little bit more wing, try and get down? A little bit more wing. Liking left turn if we can.
We can, it'll be really good. Good game.
A little bit more weight back.
So it's Peter Burling that's running the show right now, staying very calm. His lead just under 100 meters. New Zealand 1, that's Will Tiller, excuse me, who has the lead. Peter Burling, the helmsman for New Zealand 2.
You heard him say, let's get a little more wing and try to get down. They're trying to minimize maneuvers and try to make this gate in one shot rather than having to jibe again. Let's see if they can pull it off.
Ready for a jibe, boys.
They can't. They're going to jibe. They're going to jibe instead. So they tried to get down, minimize maneuvers, but now they're going to have to jibe for it.
Little deep play.
So it's a Swedish sandwich right now as they make their way down to the end of the course. It's New Zealand 1 with the lead. That's Will Tiller. Behind him, though, it is Sweden with Charlie Ekberg, and then New Zealand 2 with Peter Burling at the helm.
And go around there. Twist.
At mark number 2, New Zealand 1 has the lead. The Swedes sit in second, and the Kiwi, the second Kiwi boat, sits in third.
And as you can see here, Pete Burling again doing the split. You know, he doesn't want to follow, he wants to win these races, and great to see him. You know, another good start, third position around the mark, and be interesting to see how he goes up here. He's got fresh air straight out of the box here.
So Peter Burling decides to go to the deeper water out to shore, and following him closely is American Youth Sailing Force with Michael Meninger, the winner of race number 1. On board with the Aussies.
You can see it's really tough here in the back. You know, it's not much fresh air, and the Aussies did a really good rounding there. You know, I think they're in a high lane here. They want to be able to stay on starboard tack as long as they can, and you can see they've forced the boats behind and much lower, so probably some good gains for those boys there.
Surprised to see Portugal in the back of the pack. It looked like they had a decent start, but Rofe Racing Squad with Bernardo Freitas currently sitting in 9th place right now. New Zealand won out in front. Your leader, Will Tiller.
Shows the depth. I think Will Tiller was 7th or 8th in that first race. So the depth of this group, like Nathan said earlier, it's all about consistency in this type of regatta, and these kids have to understand that. No matter how good or bad a race is, you got to shake it off and just move on to the next one. And obviously these guys have done a nice job of doing that.
Tack in 3, 2, 1, tack it in.
Is that the Dean Barker of the future?
These kids are talented. You know, that whole team, it's interesting how every team had its own story. And their story is they've known each other since they were like 4 or 5 years old, sailing out of the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. They competed against each other all these years, finally decided to kind of join forces, and then they had to figure out who was going to do what on the boat. A really interesting, you know, interesting way that young kids have to figure out where they're good, where they're not so good, and how to make big decisions at a young age.
The line will come back. A little bit slow here, maybe.
This will make an interesting cross. And here it is, New Zealand 1 on the left, New Zealand 2 on the right. And it looks like Will Tiller has got the lead enough that it's going to make the crossing just a little easier
but
on
like
leg 3.
Nathan called this one. He saw Burling going around the other gate at the leeward mark, kept clean air. Clearly has made a bit of a gain on the leader and may have worked himself into 2nd place.
Yeah, Pete's one of those guys that's never happy to come second, and I've sailed with him for years and years and years. And every time you pick a mark to go around at the bottom, he always picks the opposite one, just so that he has that option to get a bit of separation. And you can see there, he made some good gains, and he'll be going into the shore now on starboard tack, looking for a left-hand shift to even make another gain.
The length.
So New Zealand 1 has the lead. The battle now is for 2nd place. Charlie Ekberg, who is the helmsman for the Swedish Youth Challenge Squad, he's going to have an interesting cross here now with New Zealand 2.
180.
And you see on the left of your screen, that's USA 1. They were the winners of the first race.
The wing.
No duck.
You can hear them talking there that they've got the Swedish team coming on starboard, and there's no duck for them. So just keep going past them, and they look like they want to tack pretty soon after they go past the Swedish team here.
And there's that tactician helmsman communication that we were talking about earlier, Todd, where David's having to literally scream all the way to the back of the boat. It's a little disruptive. A lot more chatter on some of the boats than others. Interesting.
All the way. Come up, Zoe. 300, go down.
So New Zealand 2 is coming in off the left-hand side of the course, and there'll be a nice little moment here with them and Sweden as they get awfully close together.
Yeah, this race is much closer than race 1. Race 1, for some reason, the leaders really were able to stretch. Here's the Swedes actually starboard tack advantage. The Kiwis actually stopped the boat instead of a big bear away. They actually slowed the boat right down, and now they'll accelerate. But a big moment in the race. Good comeback by the Swedes coming from the right side of the race course, where there's more current offshore, likely.
So it's Charlie Ekberg at the helm for Sweden. as they try to make their way up towards the leaderboard. Right now it is still New Zealand with the lead. New Zealand 1, 2, and Sweden in the top 3 as well. The Swiss are getting into the mix as well.
Tight race course. A lot of guys right on that same crossing line, that grid that we have on our screen. This is going to be really tight at the top mark. Kiwis, Swedes, and the Americans are poking in from the right-hand side.
So it's New Zealand 1 and 2 going head-to-head here at the top of the course. Here we are at gate number 3. This is awfully close crossing.
That's a gutsy call, isn't it? You're coming close to the top mark. You're not laying the top mark here. It was a really important moment there. It's going to be really tight at this top mark. It'll be interesting to see how it all
New
pans
Zealand
out.
1 isn't out of the woods yet as they are coming close, as Sweden will make the pass. So it'll be Sweden and New Zealand 2. We'll see who gets to the gate first.
And whilst all this is happening, they've also got to hoist their code 0. So every time you're hoisting this sail, the boat's slowing down. So they're trying to do it later and later so they can get around the mark nicely here.
Might have to be left turn, boys, going. Left turn.
Well, the Americans look like they're going to try to do one and in, but they do not have the advantage. That goes to New Zealand 1, so they're going to have to slow it down and let the Kiwis pass in front.
Great gains there by Sweden. You know, they were second around the bottom mark, really tight with New Zealand 2 the whole way around, and now look at the lead. They're just sailing away from the fleet, and they'd be turning around just laughing at all the action behind them.
So it's Charlie Ekberg who makes the right call there on leg number 3 as the Swedes go out into front. New Zealand 2 and Peter Burley inherit second place.
And USA 1 had a big comeback right to 4th, moved into 3rd, but they've had a big twist in their code 0. The top of the furler actually it started to come undone before the bottom, and they're having a tough time with their 0.
On board with the Germans.
And to me, it looked like what happened there was that everyone was racing so hard to get at the top mark that they weren't getting their code 0s up early enough. And you can see here, this is the end result. If you don't do all the crew work at the right time, you end up with issues like this.
It's really hard. Once the thing hourglasses like that, to actually get it undone and to unroll and to furl itself out properly, it's really difficult. You have to roll it up, unroll, roll it up, unroll, and just hope you get lucky. But this is a really bad break. Oh, there they go. They got it.
What I really like there is they identified it was no good, and the best way to fix it is to jibe.
Is that right?
If you can jibe, then the air spins around it the other way, and that makes it really fixes it quickly. And look at that, they're in all sorts of trouble at the moment, these boys. They've had issues with their code 0, and then now probably a penalty coming their way.
Oh, goodness.
So the Portuguese file the penalty, and the umpires wave it off. So no penalty there, as USA 2 is now filing a protest.
So the Swedes coming across on the starboard tack, they have right away, but the long jibe is probably port jibe right now. So this is going to make for an interesting spot.
And a penalty has been issued to USA 1 for Michael Menninger and his boat, so they have to come to a stop and give up yield 2 boat lengths.
Which gate do you like, Matty?
So it was an American-on-American foul, USA 1 on USA 2, port starboard.
And there wasn't actually any love lost between the 2 Kiwi teams right at the weather mark either. So whatever the flag is on your sail, it doesn't really matter. You're out for yourself as soon as that starting gun goes.
Here's the replay again of that American-on-American foul. This is on board the Portuguese.
And it's easy to lose complete composure at that stage. You're concentrating so hard to get your code 0 out that you lose where you are and even what tack you are on the race course. Tough spot for the Americans. Didn't show a lot of composure there, but let's see if they can get their act back together again.
Right gate, Gazer.
New Zealand 1 back in front. That's Full Metal Jacket Racing with Will Tiller as the skipper. The Swedes now sitting in second place.
You know, the Swedes were up there the whole first race, Todd, and actually lost a couple boats right at the end. It's good to see that they've also been able to shake that off and get themselves. They're sailing a really good race right here. Clearly fast.
New Zealand's going to have to jibe here, but Sweden, Nathan, they may be able to take this one straight in.
Yeah, it looks like they're really close to the ley line here, and I think the key thing to sailing these boats is picking your ley lines. You can see how much a boat loses every time it has to jibe. And unfortunately, it looks like Sweden aren't going to lay in here, but they're going to jibe directly in front of Team New Zealand, and they're going to go around the mark and lead and force New Zealand to follow them around.
So here it is at gate number 4, a little bit of drama playing out, and the Kiwis with all kinds of speed
Sometimes these are painful to watch on that jibe. You wanted him to unroll. Both of us are cringing. Unroll your zero, but they decided not to, and the Kiwis actually sailed right around the outside. Sweden's shown a little bit of inexperience there. They could have unrolled their code zero and beat him in, but they did the conservative route and it didn't quite work.
It's such a tough decision because if you unroll it, you're going to have to furl it back up in 5 seconds, but if you don't unroll it, it's going to take you 25 seconds to get there, and they'll be watching this back tonight wishing they unrolled it out of that job.
Meanwhile, New Zealand, too, makes the turn. They'll split the course, so Peter Burling, once again, true to Peter Burling, as Nathan pointed out, if everyone's going left, he's going to go right.
Looks like another tight bottom mark rounding coming up here after the French go round in 4th position. We've got another 3 coming in really close together.
And the Aussies are having issues as we go on course. Objective Australia and Jason Waterhouse, they are, look at this, Jenneker in the water.
Not having a good day, these boys, are they?
An unfurled Jenneker in the water, code zero in the water, so about as bad as it can get.
Can't cut it, it's the cable.
I wonder if that has something to do with the Jenneker Hoed not holding in the jammer, and you know, they tried to fix it between races and it only lasted 1 lap for them.
The Aussies needed a performance here in race number 2 as they came in dead last in race number 1. This cannot be fun.
No, it's not fun. And you can tell from their body language, the race is over for them. It's going to take let's not break anything. Let's sort it out. Let's go to bed tonight and hope tomorrow brings a better day.
Meanwhile, at the front of the course, it is New Zealand, 1 full metal jacket, and I don't know if that was an intentional man overboard, or if they had to put someone in the drink to
yeah, they're probably trying.
It.
They're probably trying to actually physically unhook it from around some of those front cables without damaging the sail or damaging the cables. Even worse yet.
Let's go back and look at that one more time. This is Australia trying to get things figured out, and this is where it all came down.
It looked like they were just jibing. It doesn't look like they were furling or anything. They were just jibing, and the thing fell out of the air.
Exactly. They were setting up to jibe there, and it looked like all of a sudden it came falling down from the sky. So not a good day for those boys.
We got a nice battle going here in race number 2 of the Red Bull Youth America's Cup. It is Peter Burling and Will Tiller, the Kiwis, but it's Will Tiller, full metal jacket racing, that has the lead here over Sweden, who sits in 2nd.
Going really high. Button. It's feeling high. Yep. Yeah, coffee.
All right, Nathan, I'm going to put you on board Sweden and Charlie Ekberg's boat. What would you do if you were him?
Well, at the moment, he's got a tight cross coming with the Kiwi team, and if you're not going to make the cross from here, I'd definitely be trying to slow the boat and do the duck behind, because if he tacks into the shore, he doesn't have very far to go here. So these boats go super fast, so the last thing you want to do is slow it down. And as you can see from the footage there, he's made the cross and he's in a really good position here, and now he's got to be focusing on gaining on the first boat.
That first boat is New Zealand 1, Will Tiller.
I think the Swedes are showing that they're pretty quick. They seem fast. They had not a great mark rounding at that leeward mark, but they're right back in the hunt again with these top guys. So I'm very impressed with Ekberg, and he's shown that he has some experience in these boats.
Stacking in 3.
All right, as a faithful Aussie, Nathan, I got to ask you: would the Kiwis work together here, do a little team up on the Swedes?
I think if you have to ask that kind of question, you don't know Kiwis very well. You know, those boys want to beat each other probably more than they want to beat the Swedish team. So. You know, there's a lot of national pride between those two boys, and they're probably going to be fighting very hard for Dean Barker's position in the future. So I can't see them helping each other, especially on day 1.
Ready to attack?
All the way to boundary.
Tack in 3, 2, 1. Tack in.
So it's New Zealand giving Sweden a taste of Kiwi here as they approach gate number 4. New Zealand 1 has the lead. Sweden sits in 2nd. New Zealand 2 sits in 3rd.
Definitely something on the race course that these guys have to get used to is the boundaries. And if the boundaries keep everybody kind of in this tight box, keeps the racing much closer, it's just something that no sailor has ever had to deal with before until you come to the racing here in San Francisco in these World Series or America's Cup events.
This is leg 5 of 7, so they'll make the move at gate number 5, head back down. It's a quick one down, and then it's a right-hander to the finish line.
You can see it's really puffy on the course there, and you know, I'm sure those boys, when they were approaching that boundary, just wanted to go a little bit further. They knew if they went 100 meters further, they were going to lay the top mark, and that meant it was one less maneuver to go. And unfortunately, the boundaries keep them in, and for us watching, it makes it exciting, and we get more crosses. And you can see Pete Burling again coming from the left at the top with another left-hand shift. Really going to be interesting at the top here.
Let's just get into this next pressure. Let's get through this light pitch.
Think about hoist, Harry.
You can hear them talking on board there about when to hoist the code 0. They want to make sure they get it up nice and early so they have no issues. So, you know, that's a very tough job, and they're going to work really hard to make sure it's up and prepped before the mark.
Why do you think we've seen, Nathan, some of these code 0s starting to unfurl? We've seen it several times. Is it a technique thing? What do you think?
It's very much a technique thing from when you drop it at the bottom mark. If you don't get a tight roll when you furl them, you know, the 0 up coming into the bottom mark, then it's, you know, a good chance for it to start flapping and coming undone.
Todd, there's your Kiwi on Kiwi question right there. They tacked right on top of their Kiwi brothers to make sure that they were behind the Swedes, so no love lost there.
So at gate number 5, it is New Zealand 1, Full Metal Jacket Racing, Will Tiller at the helm. And remember, New Zealand 1 finished in 7th place in race number 1, so this would be a fantastic way to rebound on the second race of the day.
And 2 and 3 is going to be very close here. The Kiwis in NZL 2 might be able to get up inside, but they're going to be going slow, and the Swedes may be able to roll over the top.
Kiwis dip their nose momentarily. Both of them send out the code 0, and now it's just drag race here as they make the turn and try and track down New Zealand 1.
Just great boat handling by these kids. You know, this is impressive, isn't it? This is, now that you're an old veteran sitting here in the booth with us, Nathan, it's pretty impressive to see these youngsters out there. Come on, you can say it.
Yeah, no, they're doing a great job. I'm just sitting here watching, just thinking what I'd do, and I'm like, man, these guys are pretty good. I'm waiting for them to take me on.
Peter Burling files a protest, excuse me, Nathan, on Sweden, and the umpires uphold it, so a penalty on Sweden.
Must have been a Windward Leward situation after the mark, and Pete Burling was trying to luff him up, and now it looks like Pete's had to, you know, really try and get around Sweden some here. And look, he's gone out of bounds there, so now he's going to end up with a penalty.
So Pete Burling gets a penalty on Sweden, and now they just give it right back to Charlie Ekberg.
I don't think he knows it. He's not looking back right now, and the longer he sails with that penalty, the longer the penalty is going to actually be to be enforced. He's going to have to slow down further. He better slow down quick, or he's going to lose second place.
Yeah, this is going to cost him bad if he doesn't work it out quickly. There you go. You can see there now he's finally realised, but it might be too late, and it's probably going to be a situation where Sweden's going to end up back ahead of him.
So he's got to stall it out for 2 boat lengths as we bring in head umpire Mike Martin. Mike, what was the call there on New Zealand 2?
Yeah. So what happened there is there was a penalty on Sweden for Windward Leward, and then they actually sailed into the zone, and New Zealand was not entitled to room, so that second one was green flagged.
All right, thank you very much, Mike, as we go back to racing action as New Zealand 1 continues to lead.
Great job with these guys, but just a little definition of what he's talking about there, Todd. The boat to weather or towards the wind has to stay clear of the boat to leeward or away from the wind. And the leeward boat was the New Zealanders, the weather boat were the Swedes, and the Swedes clearly didn't keep clear on that second little luff. There was 2 or 3 incidents there, and it was the second one that got him.
So race number 2 of the Red Bull Youth America's Cup goes the way of New Zealand. It is Full Metal Jacket Racing that gets the win in race number 2. And a nice recovery for the boys from New Zealand as race number 1 was not their best showing. They get a 7th, now a 1, and Sweden, by benefit of that New Zealand 2 infraction, they steam away and they will grab second place.
Great job by the Swedes. I think they're quick, and the French got back in there mainly because of New Zealand's mistake. They didn't catch the fact that they had that out-of-bounds penalty soon enough. The penalty grows if you don't do it quickly, and it cost them a couple places in the race.
So New Zealand 2 finally comes through. They finish 4th behind the French, the Swedes, and New Zealand 1. And here comes Switzerland. They'll finish up in 5th place, and the Americans really having their issues. Remember, USA 1, American Youth Sailing Force, was the winner of our first race, and they're going to finish no higher than 6th place as the Swiss take 5th. Portugal comes in 6th. USA 1 will have to claim 7th. So a 1 and a 7 for USA 1, which is the same finish as New Zealand 1, the winner of our second race.
It's amazing how a second race changes everything. You know, you can be having a really good day, and then everything changes all of a sudden into race 2.
And it was all their weather mark, Todd. It was that code 0 coming unfurled. They had worked themselves back to 3rd place in the race. They were chomping their way up, and just one little unforced error. Like Nathan said, it's probably was set up by the takedown at the leeward mark. That's what causes that thing to unfurl.
How about Germany? They were dead in the water with 1 minute to go, having issues, and they are coming back to salvage this. Now, it's not their best performance. They'll finish 8th place here on race number 2, but it could have been a lot worse as the American boat number 2 comes through, and they'll get back-to-back 9th place finishes on the day in 2 races. So a lot of work to be done there for Charlie Buckingham and his crew as they'll want to improve upon that performance.
And what's really interesting to see with all this racing is that every time boats engage, every time they get close, we saw Peter Burling and the Swedish team really fighting it out, and the French team go past Pete. So, you know, the whole time you're racing, you just don't want to engage with those other boats.
And if you're looking for the Aussies, they are up and sailing yet again. But remember, they had all kinds of problems out there. A sail in the water. They are now on the boundary line right now, and the Aussies had a man actually in the water they had to fish out. So not the best day for Objective Australia.
It'll be interesting to find out, Todd, exactly what happened with that halyard. It looked like it was just a routine jibe as they're coming into the leeward mark, that bottom gate, and all of a sudden the thing dropped out of the sky. So likely a problem with a piece of hardware on board the boat. We'll have to find out after the race is over.
So the winner of race number 2 at the Red Bull Youth America's Cup on day number 1, it's Full Metal Jacket Racing. William Tiller, the skipper. William, congratulations to you and your crew. What was the difference between race 1 and race 2 for you guys?
All hands on deck.
Yeah, just the difference basically for us was just getting off that start line cleanly and in good shape for that first reach mark. Sort of had a bit of a sloppy second beat, our first beat, but then the boys did really nice work on that downwind to come back strong.
Hey, Will, Ken Reed here. Congratulations. And tell us, you know, the starts are so important. Is it possible to use your match race instincts on that starting line, or is it just completely different?
Well, personally, I think it's quite different. These boats are, you can sort of block someone pretty well. I mean, you've got about 30 feet or 20 feet of boat that's wide, and it's quite easy to get sort of shut out. You've really got to get in there early and get set up and then really tussle for your position all the way right to the gun.
William, let me ask you this last question before we cut you loose. How much did you guys learn today in just 2 races, and how much better prepared will you be for tomorrow's races 3 and 4?
Yeah, the whole time we're out here on these AC45s, our team's just learning the whole time, and we're getting better and better, and we need to, because everyone out here is really quality competition, and yeah, we're striving to try and win this thing.
William, congratulations to you and your crew. We'll cut you loose, and good luck to you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
William Tiller, Full Metal Jacket Racing, the winners of race number 2. A great run for them. It was the American squad of American Youth Sailing that won race number 1, as the Aussies, Objective Australia, are able to bring it home. Jason Waterhouse, the skipper there. And Ken, that is not the sign of a very happy crew in the way they wanted to finish.
No, it's really a shame. And all the preparation, they're going to have to go home and figure out a way to shake this off. They're going to be relying on their coaches, relying on their supporters. these guys are really talented. I mean, Nathan, this is an Australian group of all-stars, and they just have to shake it off. It's a long regatta still, long way to go.
Yeah, they'll be feeling pretty disappointed after today, but they've just got to go back and just check the equipment. Obviously, it was a bit of a gear failure that let them down today, so they just got to, you know, have a good check over the boat, and I'm sure their coach, you know, will have a really good chat with them, and they'll come out firing tomorrow.
Well, let's go take a look at the race review for race number 2 here. And once again, it all came down to the start, but this time it was the Kiwis that were in the perfect position. NZ1.
Time and distance right off the middle of the line this time. Not the top end, not the bottom end, but just better positioning right off the line. Just enough pace to get over NZL2 coming into this reach, this first blast reach mark, and like you called it, Todd, the whole shot.
Here they were at mark number 1, making the rounding, and it was the Kiwis in the perfect position. But Nathan Outteridge, Sweden, did a great job with Charlie Ekberg getting second.
Yeah, the Swedes did another great job starting windward end, and as soon as you can get your bow over the boats to leeward of you, you put the wing wash straight over them, and you just go all the way around to mark 1, and, you know, great job.
Third leg here on the course. This is race number 2, and this was a nice crossing. A moment for the 2 Kiwis, and as Nathan pointed out, no love lost here.
NZL1, they were gunning for him. You know that for sure. They're on starboard tack. They have the right of way. NZL2 just makes it across.
Here it was at mark number 3, and this is where it really got interesting. A lot of traffic in here. Sweden looked like they had this thing clear and away, but then they got tangled up with the Kiwis, and this would come later on, but a great job by Charlie Ekberg and the Americans. Just, Ken, it was a matter of seconds.
This is top 4 boats, all within 1 boat length at the weather mark. You could see the top of the code 0 and the Americans starting to flog loose, and that just set them up for disaster after disaster. The sail wouldn't unfurl, and then they foul, and they go from essentially tied for first back into 7th position.
This was the 5th leg of 7. And again, this is where Australia having their issues.
Routine job, everything looks sorted, and then you're just gonna watch the sail fall in the water. And talk about a bad feeling in your stomach. That's it. Game over, and there's not much you can do about it, unfortunately, Nathan. That's no good.
No, they're just in damage control at this position.
And here was the penalty, speaking of, with Sweden and New Zealand too. It was really a penalty on penalty as New Zealand is fouled by Sweden, and then they give it right back as they go out of bounds.
That quick little luff we just saw, they determined that the Swedes didn't get out of the way. You'll see this in a second. A quick little luff right there. The Swedes don't respond. The umpires give them a penalty. The Swedes slow down, but New Zealand gives it right back by sailing out of bounds.
And you can see how far those 2 boats are ahead of the French boat and engaging in each other. The French boat really
New Zealand 1 gets the win. It's Full Metal Jacket Racing. William Tiller, their skipper. So they get a 1 and a 7. Sweden with a very strong performance today in both races. The French, amid all that skirmish with the Kiwis and the Swedes, they'll hold on for 3rd. And New Zealand 2, with Peter Burling at the helm, they will grab a top 4 finish here in race number 2. So after 2 races on day 1 of the Red Bull Youth America's Cup, it is Full Metal Jacket Racing. That's how they finished. They were 29 seconds ahead of the Swedes, Next World Energy, the French in 3rd, and the Kiwis, boat number 2 in 4th. For USA 45, they finished 9th. Here's your overall after 2 races, and it is very close, with NZL Sailing in 1st place with 16 points. The French sitting in 2nd with 15. And Full Metal Jacket is now in 3rd with 14 points. So day 1 is in the books for the Red Bull Youth America's Cup. On behalf of Ken Reed and Nathan Outteridge, I'm Todd Harris saying so long from San Francisco. We will see you back here again tomorrow.